Nobody makes a better crook than a banker or a politician, and they prove it to us every day. The term magic mortgages refers to a money laundering scheme involving fictitious real estate transactions that have been linked to the Democratic fundraising platform ActBlue. According to various sources, the scheme operates as follows. The process involves purchasing a property for a relatively low amount, say $200,000 for example, and using a legitimate bank loan to get it. Shortly thereafter, sometimes the same day, that property is fraudulently appraised at a much higher value, like $200 million with a hard money loan processed by a shell title company. Are you with me? They buy a cheap home and get a bogus appraisal for millions, and a crooked shell title company does the loan processing. Hard money loans have higher interest rates and are usually short terms, but you don't need to prove your credit worthiness or ability to pay it back because the lender is an investor, and the property is secured so they can repossess it if you don't pay. These mortgages also don't properly identify the lender, which allows large sums of money to be funneled anonymously into political campaigns or other entities. The inflated appraisals create a way to launder money by disguising the illegal funds as legit mortgage money. Then they smurf the money, which means that many small donations are used to hide a larger illegal contribution. The only magic we get with mortgages is watching our money disappear. The Election Fairness Institute, led by Arizona State Senator Mark Finchem, claims this scheme has allowed the laundering of hundreds of millions, possibly even billions of dollars. Specific allegations include $164,217,000 in suspicious transactions identified by the Institute, with 422 identical contributions made on June 30, 2023, to a Tennessee state representative via the NGO ActBlue. Many on these contributions had invalid donor addresses and phone numbers. The scheme is said to be nationwide, with digital footprints found across multiple states. What a shock! While sources don't explicitly detail how magic mortgages are tied to trafficking, such as human or drug trafficking, the implication is that the laundering mechanism could be used to clean illicit funds from various criminal activities, including trafficking. The lack of transparency in these transactions, combined with the use of shell companies and anonymous donors, creates a structure that supports the concealment of proceeds from illegal activities. Sources suggest that the funds may originate from foreign actors, including BRICS nations, aiming to influence United States politics. So it wasn't Russia, it was ActBlue. Investigations into ActBlue, which is the Democratic Party's primary online fundraising platform, have really intensified in recent years, and they have faced scrutiny for its alleged role in facilitating these schemes, but now there's no longer a Democratic administration hiding it. Here's what we know so far about the investigations. The Texas Attorney General's investigation recently made headlines on August 7th, when Ken Paxton announced that ActBlue was required to overhaul its security system following allegations of a $200 million magic mortgage money laundering operation. The investigation highlighted vulnerabilities in ActBlue's fraud prevention protocols, which apparently allowed fraudulent donations to flow through the platform. Now really, does anybody really think that this wasn't deliberate? Meanwhile, the Election Fairness Institute, led by Republican Arizona Senator Mark Finchem and supported by whistleblower Sean Taylor, who is a former assistant police chief in Tennessee, claims to have uncovered evidence of a long-running operation. Their findings point to smurfing or using straw donors to mask larger contributions, and they also used fictitious real estate transactions. EFI has referred its findings to the U.S. Department of Justice, and several U.S. attorneys have shown interest in pursuing the case, though in reality, progress may depend on Senate confirmations being held up by the Democrats. Congressional investigations ramped up in 2024, with Republican-led committees, including the House Committee on Oversight and Accountability, chaired by Representative James Comer, and the House Administration Committee, led by Wisconsin Representative Brian Steele, launching investigations into ActBlue. A joint interim report titled Fraud on ActBlue: How the Democrats' Top Fundraising Platform Opens the Door for Illegal Election Contribution was released on April 2, 2025. A copy of the report is linked in the description for your further review. The report states that ActBlue relaxed its fraud prevention rules twice in 2024, despite being aware of both foreign and domestic fraudulent activities. See, I told you it wasn't a mistake. It cites 237 donations made from foreign IP addresses using domestic prepaid cards in 1 month during September and October 2024, just before the election. The report also claims that ActBlue's chief fraud prevention official prioritized diversity, equity, and inclusion over reducing fraud. In North Carolina, investigative journalist Stephen Horn, along with volunteers Kelly Lane and another individual, also uncovered evidence in the Federal Election Commission database suggesting that ActBlue was used to launder fraudulent donations. They identified 2 Raleigh residents whose names and addresses were used for substantial donations, like $26,204.07 across 1,905 transactions in 2021 and 2022, even though the individuals claimed they couldn't afford such contributions. EFI's findings have been referred to the Department of Justice, and the FBI is reportedly involved in investigating the $200 million in fraudulent donations, especially those tied to suspicious transactions targeting junior Democratic Senator Maxwell Alejandro Frost. ActBlue was founded in 2004 by Benjamin Ron and Matt DeBergali, 2 Democrat activists, as a nonprofit political action committee, or PAC, to allegedly facilitate small-dollar donations for Democratic candidates and progressive causes. They were also associated with Black Lives Matter and funneled a lot of money to BLM. Since then, it has raised over $13.7 billion. So ActBlue operates as a fundraising platform, collecting donations from individual entities, perhaps Magic Mortgage proceeds, and passes them to Democratic campaigns and organizations. It sustains itself through processing fees, which are a percentage of each donation, paid by campaigns or donors. Sources don't provide a clear hierarchy or identify ultimate decision-makers, but the transactions are described as systematic and repetitive. So, smurfing and straw donors are the tactics that investigators are documenting here. Often, the straw donors are elderly or retired individuals who aren't even aware their identities are being used. According to Federal Election Commission data, there are cases like 2 residents from Raleigh, North Carolina, who are listed as making thousands of small donations, like over $26,000 across 1,905 transactions in just 2021 and 2022. But these people claim they couldn't possibly afford to make those donations. Investigators claim to have traced what they call a digital dust of transactions across the nation, linking multiple properties and ActBlue donations. The use of wire transfers through title companies without proper lender documentation is said to enable the laundering process. The scheme allegedly involves ActBlue officers and their donor network, with patterns uncovered in property deeds, mortgage insurance documents, and tax records. While not directly evidenced, the scheme is alleged to potentially conceal proceeds from various criminal activities, including drug trafficking and black market operations, by integrating illicit funds into the financial system through these real estate transactions. The sources suggest foreign actors, such as BRICS nations, may be involved in funneling money to influence United States elections, though specific evidence tying trafficking to magic mortgages isn't detailed. The sources mention several individuals and entities allegedly connected to the magic mortgages scheme, primarily through investigations by the Election Fairness Institute and other entities. Here are the key figures and roles cited. The case has been referred to the United States Department of Justice and claims several United States attorneys are interested in pursuing the case. The House Committee on Oversight and Accountability, chaired by Representative James Comer, and the House Administration Committee, led by Representative Brian Steele, released a joint report on April 2, 2025, detailing ActBlue's alleged failure to address fraud. The report cites internal ActBlue documents and an unnamed chief fraud prevention official who prioritized DEI over fraud prevention. Maxwell Frost and Raphael Warnock, both Democratic politicians, are mentioned as recipients of allegedly laundered funds through ActBlue. Specifically, millions in donations to their campaigns are cited as part of the Magic Mortgages scheme, though there is no direct evidence they were aware of or complicit in the alleged fraud. The allegations surrounding ActBlue and the Magic Mortgage scheme not only adds another nail in the coffin of deep state puppets on both sides, but raises serious questions about the integrity of political fundraising in general, but ongoing investigations and the resignations of 7 senior ActBlue officials is just more substantiation that Donald Trump was right when he made accusations about the fairness of the election. So keep your eyes open as more and more evidence is revealed each day that proves the matrix of control is being dismantled.